here we are again, talking about coaching. I'm here with Yannick and Nicki. Today's question is, I want to charge more, but I don't feel confident that I'm worth it. I think it's such a great question. It's probably like somewhere there in the top 3 of questions that I've heard from coaches, working with coaches for a few years now. It's also a question that was always on my mind and still is actually, even though my prices have
It really shouldn't be on your mind, Siawash.
Exactly. It shouldn't really, even though that, my prices increased significantly over time. But yeah, I think it's a great question because, let's face it, we want to help people, right? We do this for different reasons. But one of the reasons is also to have, for a lot of coaches, is to have an income, right? And, if you think about doctors, you think about dentists, before we choose a profession, we often look at like, what is the average income, right? And if I maybe qualify and I learn a bit more and specialize, what's my income then, right? So I think it's an important part because often when coaches want to transition into doing this full time, they need a full-time income, right? So, and I think personally, like, nothing against part-time coaches, but if someone really wants to step into that, they can make a bigger impact in the world. They can help more people. So personally, I want more people to have that ability to earn more. So I think it's such a great question and a great question to bring to this conversation.
Yeah, because there's so many coaches out there who really would like to be full-time coaches, but they feel they're still dependent on their current and their day job, or on whatever other activity kind of pays them. And I mean, I resonate with it on a personal level. For 6 years, I was charging £50 a session. And it took a little while from not charging anything to charging £5, which, by the way, made a huge difference to clients' commitment and the impact of the work. Just £5, it was incredible. To, I think then it was 20, and then at some point it was 50, and I kept it at 50 for a very, very long time. And so I experienced firsthand the kind of experiences, emotions are involved. I mean, I'm me and others are others, but there was certainly a feeling around, well, is it worth it if I charge more? What's the kind of impact or the kind of value that I'm offering? But then there were a few thoughts that led to me actually charging more and allowing myself to do that. And a few of those bits I would love to kind of put out there to help others have perhaps think about some of those, because they weren't in my sphere of awareness. A very important one was the amount of money that I had invested to get to this stage, the amount of money that I didn't earn in a corporate job because I had decided to become a coach, the money that I had invested in coach training and CPDs and supervision, that, on a fairness is a high value of mine. And it would only be fair if I kind of make that money back. So for me, it was like, well, it's £50 an hour. But it wasn't £50 an hour, really. The fee that you charge should also pay you back for what you've invested. And if you could earn an X amount of money in another job, and you choose to spend your time not in that job, but in your coaching job, there's a question around, how does that scale up? And then also, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? To just kind of think about how much money do you need per year in order to sustain yourself or create a life that you would want to live. And that is entirely your decision. So once I actually crunched the numbers and I realized, well, I'm just like, well, if I were to live my dream life, I need this much. I need to pay insurance. I need to buy clothes and food and rent and maybe a car every 10 years or whatever, whatever it is. And then I realized, okay, this much I need per year. And if I want to work this many hours and I can see this many clients, you can start thinking about, well, or start calculating, what do I need to charge per client and how many clients do I need per month in order to sustain myself like that? If my network just gives me, or your marketing approach just gives you 3 clients a month, then you can start calculating what would be a good rate. And that really, for me, a very kind of logical, rational level, was a good solution to think, well, there's actually a logical argument. There's a good argument for me charging more money, because what I'm doing now is not sustainable, and it wasn't sustainable. And that really helped. So that was one of those things.
Yeah, I think that's such an important part, I just want to like that I think often we overlook that. And if we actually get clear on the amount we want to earn and then reverse engineer that, right? So that's essentially what you did. You got clear on the amount you want to earn, break it out to monthly. How many hours can I work? How many people can I help? Because the truth is, and by the way, like, just want to mention this, right? It's fine to start with whatever, £5, £10 an hour, £50 an hour. Some of the most successful coaches have started at a very low fee, right? So as a new coach, sometimes, looking at all these experienced coaches that have been doing this for 5 years or 10 years, it's very easy to say, well, I'm going to start. I've seen new coaches start at 10,000, 5,000, and then struggle for months, 6 months, a year, right? I've worked with coaches that have been coaching for 8 years and 5 years, right? And that doesn't actually serve you as a coach, right? There's not necessarily a right way or wrong way to do it, but there's a distinction that's really helped me is, right? I think a lot of coaches are familiar with the book, The Prosperous Coach. And a lot of us, we want to become prosperous coaches, right? But the distinction that I often bring to coaches is become a working coach first, and then you grow into a prosperous coach, right? Be okay to, to have a full practice, even if it means you're charging a bit less, right? You maybe have 20 clients to earn that, whatever it is, that 2,000 a month, right? But you're gaining experience, you're growing as a coach, and that's going to long-term really benefit you. And then as you grow, you're getting great results, you're becoming more confident and more skilled as a coach. You could maybe say, okay, well, I will increase my rates. So maybe I need 15 clients to maintain my income. And then you maybe go to 10 clients, but your rate slowly grows.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important to understand the evolution as a coach, the journey, because often we look at someone that's been doing this for 10, 15 years, and then we try to be like that. Right. And that's what I've made that mistake in the past. And that doesn't help you. It doesn't help you, like, when you increase your prices and you don't have any clients, you just get frustrated, you start doubting yourself. And unfortunately, some coaches actually quit. They leave the whole profession because they're so uncomfortable charging those big prices, and they think, I need to be there to be a successful coach.
Yeah, and I really want to underline that. It's like it makes me think of dealing with phobias. I mean, maybe not at that phobia clinical end, but if somebody is scared of spiders, you can either throw yourself into a spider pit and realize that they don't kill you, and then you realize, oh, that wasn't so bad actually, and then you're not scared of spiders anymore. But you can also do it very gradually by first maybe imagining a friendly cartoon spider, and then gradually maybe imagine a real spider, and then have a spider locked up in a cage with a shotgun in your hand, and you get the idea, until it like kind of crawls through your hand and you're okay with it. So equally with prices, we can say, well, I'm going to charge X amount of money, which is a high amount, and you're like, well, that feels wrong. But then you just do it, and you talk about it, and you say it, and you practice it, and you just say it over again until it becomes normal. And then when somebody says yes to it, we realize it's possible. And all of a sudden, the inhibition of charging this much is gone because now it's real. The gradual approach to that would be, for example, charge every new client you sign up £10 more, or $10 or 10%, whatever it is. Then every time you go a little bit higher, every time you feel a little bit more confident. At some point, when I went from £50 to £2,000 for a package, there was a package of 6, so it was a huge increase for me. And the first time I pitched it, it felt wrong. I only pitched it because I had promised my coach, and that person had just told me for 2 hours that they don't have any money. So I'm like, this is weird, but I have committed, so I'm going to do it. Long story short, they took out a loan and paid for the coaching, and then also paid for an office in their back garden. And that was like, I didn't even consider that possibility, but it worked, and it was valuable. 6 times later, I pitched it 6 times. I felt I should probably charge more. It would feel right. to charge more, because the value that people walk away with is tremendous. And if you go away from looking at what do I charge per session, and you look at what do I charge for the results that the clients get, you know, if somebody, often coaching doesn't cause complete miracles. You know, often coaching is merely an accelerator. I say merely, but it's an important accelerator. How much is it worth to you if you leave your job or your toxic relationship or whatever it is that you want to change 6 months earlier or 1 year earlier? You know, in 30 years' time, how much time is that? How much is it worth that you have another year where you feel good about yourself in the morning, looking forward to your work, rather than dreading going there? You know, and if you put the price in that relation, then all of a sudden it sounds a lot less, because 200 pounds per hour sounds like a lot to a lot of people, but 3,000 pounds to wake up with energized and happy rather than dreading and anxious, maybe that doesn't sound so much to me. What's 3,000 pounds in the context of earning 20, 30, 50, 70K a year?
Yeah, I really like that way of thinking about it, Yannick. I mean, I think there are so many different rationales and directions you can take that can influence kind of how you ultimately, you know, decide to set your prices or have your price structure. I guess there's 3 that I can think of that have been particularly influential for me at the kind of beginning stages of going from £0 to like £50 per sessions, and now working on packages where I do 10 sessions for 1,500. So that, you know, incrementally speaking, is a huge jump for me. And the 3 key points that I found most helpful to give me the confidence and allow me to do that are: number 1, the way I reason it to myself is that by raising my prices, I just seem to be able to secure more commitment from my clients, and that helps them get the results, and that, you know, enables me as a coach to also feel like I'm doing and coaching, you know, doing my job as a coach. So that's been my number 1 kind of rationale.
For sure.
The second,
underlining that.
Just want to touch on something there, Nikki. I know you wanted to share something else, but
yeah,
it's the commitment. It's the number 1 thing that creates commitment in a client. But I also believe it creates a commitment in a coach.
Absolutely.
Right? Because often we talk about the client, but it gets us coaches to, you know, show up on time, to prepare, to maybe even go beyond, you know, beyond the session and think outside of the box. So just want to jump in there.
Absolutely, Siawash, I totally agree. And the way that's initially manifested with me is definitely as like the pressure, you know, that raise of price is definitely, you know, helped me up my game.
I do want to acknowledge the pressure for a moment, because for some coaches that's paralyzing, and that's exactly why they don't put their prices up. So I think it can be really useful, but on the other hand, I also want to free my coaches from the pressure of charge, because just because you're charging a lot doesn't mean you need to be a certain good or you need to deliver a certain result. You're merely selling a potential, and you keep selling the potential. You cannot be more than fully committed. So I think it can be a problem that coaches charge something where they now feel under pressure that they have to deliver.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna drop it there. You know, I've played a lot with prizes. I think a big part of the work I do is experimenting. But you know, for me, it's a lot about what Yannick said. It's about results, right? If I'm confident I can get certain results for someone. But I have a client that pays 50,000 for coaching, a client that pays 100,000 for coaching, and there's no difference there for me, right? And for me, like, I have programs where people invest a few thousand, I show up as the same coach, right? And I want to point out that it has brought a whole different focus into my work. And for me, it's all about mastery. But the thing is there that often we look at I used to look at those big numbers and think like, what magical thing do they bring? Do they have some magical dust that they bring to the sessions? Right. And I think it's bringing that level of professionalism, you know, thinking outside of sessions about clients. What else can I do? How can for me, like a core value is customer astonishment. How can I surprise my clients? How can I wow them? Right. Yeah.
Just before we finish, because I have a client very soon. I actually go need to see them. I do want to hear what the other two points were that Nikki started to tell us about. I think we can continue this conversation at some point, but I'm really interested what those two other points were.
For sure, and I'll make it quick. The second point was, was a bit of the calculation that was already shared about, realistically, what do I need a year to kind of sustain myself and make a little bit of savings, and then kind of working out per week how much energetically can I spend time coaching, and then, based on that, what kind of should a coaching session cost. So that's kind of, valuing my needs and kind of my expertise and in relation to what I can deliver. And then the final point was around, well, it builds again on kind of, valuing, and you said this, Yannick, valuing all the experience and the expenses and the investment personally and financially I've made into kind of my training as a coach, as well as kind of the reading and time I invest daily in kind of building my practice. Taking that into account, but combined also with this idea of, what you said also, Yannick, again, about the idea of, what ultimately is it that the client is getting out of it, and the result extends beyond just the time of the coaching and anything monetary to being a result and a way of thinking or a change for life. So kind of combining all these various things, I think for me, that's provided a really powerful rationale for how I can justify putting my prices up. And I think, eventually what then happens is you raise your prices to higher and higher levels based a little bit on supply and demand, knowing that there's only one of you. And if there's so many people demanding you, then your prices will naturally kind of.
Yeah. You know what? Like you mentioned so many valuable things there. And I think this question deserves a part two.
Yeah, there's definitely a part two.
Cliffhanger.
Energy and,
I have another whole list, I have like a list with like 7, 10, 11 or so points of what you can use to calculate your price in a way that's fair.
Amazing.
But given that we talked about time earlier, I definitely need to go now. So guys, thank you so much. I hope you found it that useful. And if you've watched us on Facebook Live, I hope you find that helpful. And maybe we announce it next time we meet again, and that people can put it in their calendar. And if you're listening to us anywhere else, then thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time.
Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate your commitment to learning and growing as a coach. Just a few things before you go. First of all, we're doing this for you. So if there's anything you'd like us to talk about, do send us a question. Secondly, we're not doing this for profit, so we rely on your support to help us reach as many coaches as we can. So if you can send this episode to a friend or tell a fellow coach about what we're doing here, maybe you can subscribe or leave us a review, or even support us on Patreon. That would be amazing. And lastly, you can find us across all major platforms. So whether you like to watch or you like to listen or you like to download episodes and listen to it in your car while you're driving through somewhere with no internet, you can do so too. And that's it from us. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.